Hi, everybody. Welcome to Facebook Live. Thanks for joining me. Thank you for all of you who are returning and for all of you new members. So what this is we're not doing mediumship readings on this. What we're doing is taking questions and I'm going to answer them as best I can based on the information I've received over the years in doing this work. And so I invite you to reach out if you have a question, and hopefully I can get to it today. So why don't we start?
Great. So our first question is from Dana, and she asks, what does it mean when we have flashbacks about something positive or negative from the past?
Okay, that's a great question. So our spirit guides and our angels talk to us through impressing our minds and bodies with thoughts and feelings. And when we get flashbacks, that's clairvoyance, right? And so it's like you're seeing things in your mind's eye. And so your angels are clairvoyantly trying to communicate something to you. So in my experience, what I found is if I am, let's say, in a situation or I'm with a person and they flash another situation that happened to me prior or a person, they're trying to say there's a parallel lesson or pattern here that you need to pay attention to. So let's say I had a friend in the past who was all drama, and it turned out down the road I found out I couldn't come to trust her. Well, I meet somebody and that person reminds me of that person. I keep seeing flashbacks of that person. That's a warning sign. It's my angels protecting me saying, heads up, this person has similar traits or patterns. And so see it as it's protection and it's good information. So the more you pay attention and honor that guidance, the more your angels and guides will communicate with you that way. It just makes life easier.
So good to know. So this question comes from Sharon, and she is wondering, do our departed loved ones wait for us to reincarnate? And are we still bonded to them even after death?
So I'll start with the second question. We are always bonded to them even after death because love doesn't die. Love is an energy that connects us eternally to their energy. So the body dies, but the light, the soul, is still very much with us and around us. I just had a group reading before this, and we talked several times about it was hard for some of these people to move on after the passing of their mother or their husband, and they were just having a really hard time emotionally letting go. And I told them, well, it's mainly because they aren't gone. You can't get past it, and you're never going to get past the physical absence because you're sensing their eternal nature, which is their love for you. So it's bittersweet, and it's a beautiful thing, and yet sometimes it's hard because on a mind level, you can't make sense of it. You want to hug them and spend time with them, but you just have to figure out a new way of relating to them. And so the first part, remind me of the question. First part.
So it was, do our departed loved ones wait for us to reincarnate?
Yes. So really it depends on soul contracts. And so it's case by case. Generally, yes. It's kind of like you go through a school year and then you get to summer vacation and you want to spend time relaxing and playing over summer break before you go back to school. Well, we're in Earth school, and when we cross over to spirit, heaven, that's like summer vacation. I don't know many spirits that I've heard that want to jump right back into school, maybe some ambitious ones, but what I know is that there's no timeline, there's no rush, because time really doesn't exist in that realm. It's only in this linear 3D Earth realm. It does exist. So generally, that's why when I work with people, we can connect back a generation or two to their ancestors. I rarely channel 3 or 4 generations back because usually they've either moved on to the higher heavens or they've reincarnated.
Great, thank you. Then Sharon has a couple questions. They're all kind of related. So this one, she's wondering, when we do cross over and we're like in summer school or summer break, what does their reality look like? Does it look like here? Is it different?
Yeah, so I'll use an example. I had this group reading this morning, and this woman's dad, Tom, came through, and I said he's with Mike, and she started crying, saying, Mike's my brother. He died years ago. They found each other. I said, yeah, they're playing golf right now. It looks a lot like Pebble Beach. Does that make sense? And she gasped and said, oh my God, My dad had a house on Pebble Beach. He was a major golfer. I guess in the year before he died, he got 11 holes and won. And so she said, my brother and my dad, that's what they did. They golfed together. So they were recreating their heaven now as being something that brought them great joy in life. You know, that's what we get to do. For some people, you know, heaven would be like a big party with your favorite people around, spending quality time. It really, again, just depends on if you've earned it. So when we leave this world, we go to the place that we've earned. So if you're a good person and you've done good, kind things, we all make mistakes, but your intentions were loving and kind and good, you have nothing to worry about. You're going to go to a beautiful place, and then you decide what that heaven's going to look and feel like.
Thank you. So this question is from Jessica, and she kind of explained how she had some visions or premonitions when she was pregnant with her first child. And so she had a question on how do we know if the visions that we get are truly premonitions of something to happen? And then the second part of her question is, could a period of time like motherhood or pregnancy kind of bring about those heightened senses for her again?
Yes. I can speak by experience. Every time I was pregnant, my readings got really psychic and clear. And not that they aren't now, but it just came more easily. And yes, when you're pregnant, as you know, your 5 physical senses are heightened. And that same too, it applies to your 6th sense. I'm sure there's a scientific explanation behind hormones and all of that. Sometimes I have heard that the soul, once it enters the womb, you become more psychic because you have, especially for those of us who are bringing in really in tune, advanced souls, psychic children, combine both of you, right? You're sensing and feeling everything this soul is, and so it heightens it. So premonitions, time will tell. The only way you know is if you receive premonitions, whether it's, you know, a psychic hit that you get throughout the day, or a dream that you have that's predicting something, or something in your meditation. Write it down, record it somehow, and then when it comes to pass, that's your validation that you weren't making it up. It truly was divine guidance coming to you. I want to share this actually. A week ago, I always record my readings and my group readings. I had a small group, and I always do 2 recorders as backup. And what I like to share with people is I'm recording this. However, if both recorders don't record, Spirit does not want you to have this. Okay? Well, for the first time in years, not only did both not record, and everyone in the group saw me start it because I asked the date. So we knew we started it. But at the end, they were off. And they only recorded, both of them stopped at 5 minutes and 14 seconds, which tells me, and these do not plug in, they are batteries, which tells me a spirit zapped those. So spirits like to mess with our electronics and anything technical. And sometimes they're just trying to get our attention, and other times, they're just being annoying. They're just messing with stuff because they can. They're showing us their power. Okay, what's the next question?
All right. So John asks, is there an easy way to clear the mind so you're more open to your guides? He has his mind, like a lot of us, going in a lot of different directions at once, and it's hard for him to relax.
Yeah, that's pretty common for myself and a lot of people. So number 1, I would say stimulants, anything you're using like caffeine or sugar or medications that cause you to be stimulated is not going to help. And so if you can reduce or eliminate that, I know for me, I can only have a certain amount of caffeine before I am unable to work. I'm too jittery. So you have to kind of pay attention to that. But then the other thing is it's getting into a practice, a daily practice of quieting the mind. And it's like meditation. It's reprogramming and training yourself to zoom out of all the ego mind thoughts, the mind chatter, right? The party going on in the head. You have to, the more you do it, the easier it becomes. And the more quickly you can shift out of all that noise. But it takes practice. It's, that's why spirits come to us when we're sleeping, because our guides and angels, especially because our minds are quieted. right? And so it's way easier for them to project energy into our minds and bodies and communicate with us. But you don't have to just rely on sleep and dreams. You absolutely can do it during your waking state through a practice of meditation as well.
Thanks.
So this question comes from Peggy, and she is asking if one of your parents pass and the other remarries, and then they both pass, who would that parent be with?
All of them. All of them. I say this all the time, and people a lot of times have a very hard time comprehending, which I get because we're trying to understand it from a limited mind perspective. Mm-hmm. When we incarnate, we have many people we interact with throughout from birth to death, right? Some of them are really significant players in our life story, and others are, you know, in the background. And we incarnate with soul groups. And so a lot of us have more than one soulmate, soulmate. And so trust me, like, you're going to leave this world and find all your lovers up there, even past girlfriends or boyfriends. And but there's no limitation to love. So there's no threat, right? And in spirit, we see it as we're all just playing, we're wearing masks. When we come into relationship in this world, we're just playing out karma is what we're doing, because we have unfinished business and lessons we're here to learn and teach each other. So it's very common to leave this world, meet up, and have your mother there with her first husband and your father, the second husband, and maybe even the boyfriend. Okay. And they, you know, they see it that's normal. Only from a mind level, it's not. So, okay, what's next?
So Shirley asks, does it have significance when a loved one dies on an important day, like an anniversary or a birthday? Like they lost their son on their wedding anniversary, and then and he was living with mental illness, and so she also wonders, like, does mental illness stay with souls after they've passed? So there's two questions there.
Okay, so mental illness does not stay with souls after they pass, because mental illness is of the mind, right? And the mind is of the body. And when we die, we lose our bodies. So what lasts is our consciousness. Mm-hmm. And so our consciousness is not wounded. It's at some level of enlightenment or evolvement based on the choices we made. So we become whole and complete once we leave the fragmented mind, and there's opportunity for that consciousness, your son's soul, to heal and to become even more enlightened and grow, pick up where he left off in spirit. And so you can be rest assured knowing he's in a much better place. That's why I hear from so many souls who died by suicide, it was easier for them to leave this very dense earth plane because there's so much contrast here. It amplified their mental illness. It's easier to more gentler in terms of working through their unresolved issues or their wounds in spirit. I'm not saying that's okay. I'll leave it at that. That's a whole other subject. But okay. So now your son died on your anniversary, which tells me, this is my psychic read on this, that he is saying, okay, Mom, you brought me into this world. Mom and Dad, you helped me through this world, and you helped me learn important soul lessons that I needed to learn and go through. And I left this world on your day. So see that now as permission from him to love each other fully, to celebrate the good times, celebrate your love for each other, your time on earth together while you still have it, and do so with his memory, you know, knowing that he's silently blessing you and wanting you to focus on each other versus on him, because it sounds like he was a source of a lot of energy for you and concern when he was here. So hopefully that gives you comfort in that permission slip to live life fully.
So this question is from Jessie, and she is wondering how we can differentiate our own inner voice from the voice of our guides coming through.
Right. So So it's a simple way to think through this. A divine thought, meaning something from either your higher self, your intuition, or spirit or guides, that comes out of the blue, comes from nowhere. It's simple, it's loving, it's kind, it's consistent. A mind thought, which is manufactured from the ego, it's trailed, it's complicated, it's judgmental, it's nagging, consistent. It's just that mind chatter that doesn't go away. And so it has some emotional charge to it, whereas a divine thought is pretty neutral and direct. Okay, so that's the best way. When I first started this, my grandma Babe in spirit started talking to me through my mind's voice. And I knew it wasn't me talking because it was sing-songy, simple. It's almost like lyrics to songs. It's not how I talk. And so she would talk to me in this way. It was in my own mind's voice, but it was definitely not my wisdom, not my words. And so for everybody, it's going to come through differently. But I would say pay attention. When you're running around through your days, we all have mind thoughts, mind chatter, right? You get off the phone with somebody and you're relaying the whole conversation in your head. Those are mind thoughts, trailed thoughts that lead to another thought that lead to the next thought. Versus you're driving around and out of the blue, you think about your Uncle Jack who died and you realize, oh my God, today's what would have been his birthday, right? And so that came from out of nowhere. That's him saying hi and acknowledging his birthday. Okay.
Awesome. So Deanna asked, her son was born 2 hours before her dad passed away, and her son is really similar to her dad. And so, is it possible that he could have passed on to her son, or like?
Yeah, in this case, no. I'm getting it's not, but because the son was born 2 hours
before the dad
before. The dad's soul was still in the body, and the son came in. But what it was, and this happens a lot, is that these souls have an agreement, right? So the circle of life. So one soul leaves, another comes in. It's like a tag team. It's like, pass the baton, you're it, and now he leaves. But there's some agreement between those souls that he would carry a similar essence as your father. All right? So they're from the same soul group, and it helps on some level, a lot of levels, I'm sure, helps you through the grief and kind of ease the pain and help you still feel connected. Now, pay attention to your son being serving as a messenger for your father in spirit, okay? Because if they're that similar in energy, he's going to choose him he'll look after him, but also communicate to all of you through him. So.
Awesome.
So Candace is asking about like number signs and sequence numbers. She said that she's read the stuff from Doreen Virtue and she understands what like the cards are saying, but she is kind of wondering what the bigger message is when we see those sequence numbers a lot.
So whether it's you keep seeing sequence numbers like 1111, 333, 444, or whatever angel numbers you're seeing, birth dates, death dates, it's like anything else. It's like breadcrumbs along your path. They're signs to tell you you are synced up with the universe. You are in alignment with your higher self. See it as validation, a pat on the back from the universe saying you're in the synchronistic flow. That's where miracles happen. So these signs are miracles. So it's great confirmation that whatever you're doing, your intention to stay connected to this higher energy and higher self is working. Now, for you, it's numbers. For some people, it could be pennies. It could be feathers. I mean, it could be a number of things. It could be butterflies. But in this case, and I do know a lot of people are coming to me talking about numbers. The book Angel Numbers by Doreen Virtue is the one I know of. I'm sure there's many others out there that help you better explain the actual meaning of the numbers, because within the numbers, there's a whole language. If they know they're getting your attention, then they're going to start talking more specific messages through numbers. But on a basic level, it's just a validation you're in the flow.
Nice. So Maureen wants to know, she's asking about spirit guides and how they appear and how do we know they have our best intentions mind? And does negative energy ever pose as a spirit guide?
Yeah, so yes, there's all sorts of energy out there. And so I always say you have to be responsible when you open up to working with spirit, and always start and end by your intention of connecting to God's presence, whatever you want to call it, to the universe, to the highest light and love of source energy. And that, you welcome any and all guidance from those who have your best intentions at heart. And if you set those intentions, that's your free will, you will be protected. Now, there may be times when more negative spirits try and sneak through, but it's highly unlikely if you have gone into it and exited the connection properly. But if you don't, you absolutely can start picking up on darker energies, entities that pose as guides. Okay, so a lot of our kids a lot of kids right now are very sensitive to energy, and especially teenagers who are hormonal, and they're unaware of all the energies. They're like sponges, and they're picking up energy from people, but also entities. And darker entities like to feed off vulnerable people who are available and susceptible. And so a lot of kids and teenagers need to be cleared often, because they'll pick up on those mischievous, not well-intentioned spirits, and then they themselves get really depressed, have dark thoughts, are moody and grumpy, and they just feel irritated because they're covered. It's not always their fault, right? Sometimes they're being difficult teenagers, and sometimes it's a combination of the hormones and spirits attached onto them. So I think it's really important to teach the younger ones, especially this, and anyone working in the realm of energy work or spirit, intuitive stuff.
Yeah. So I think this will be our last question, but Eric asked kind of an open-ended question about your understanding of twin flames and soulmates.
So my understanding is that twin flames are more rare, and a lot of our twin flames aren't incarnated with us. So we all have soulmates, different relationships. Some of them are children, and some are, best friends that feel like soul sisters or soul brothers, or parents. And then we have romantic soulmates, right? So romantic soulmates, we might have more than one in each lifetime. We could have 3 or 4 or 5. Some of us have one, and some of us don't have any, because we've chosen to come in and not have that as part of our lesson, our path. So a twin flame, however, it's like the other piece of you. Okay, whether it's the opposite sex or the same sex, it's like your soul's almost split in half, but you're still whole and complete, and then you fit each other. It's hard to explain. It's more of a knowing and a feeling. It's different than just a soulmate that you're with because you both have a lesson that you're healing each other's wounds or teaching each other something that you both are trying to advance on in this lifetime. Usually, with my understanding with twin flames, there's not a lot of drama. You are here to make the world better together, side by side, both in your power, both serving on whatever level you're here to serve, and you lift each other higher, right? So it's not all of the drama that a lot of us go through in just basic soulmate relationships. So it's almost like that's like your reward for having gone through. So if you found your twin flame, like, you can consider yourself pretty advanced and pat yourself on the back that you're not going to have a lot of drama together. You just have a lot more love, and you're supposed to be serving as the light and showing other people the potential and possibility of having that as well. Okay, so that's a good way to end. I like that. Thanks for that question. We're going to conclude for today, but I'm going to be doing this again in the next few weeks. As always, I welcome your questions. My intention again is to create a safe place for like-minded people to come together and talk about this, material that used once to be pretty taboo. And now I think more and more people are starting to open up to and recognize not only is it not crazy, it's actually more real and more normal to our soul self than the illusion of this earth world. And so I thank you for being a part of today's conversation. If you were drawn to this, just see it as your higher self, your soul self, and your loved ones in spirit, validating you and reminding you that you alone have your own ability to tap into this, and to continue to be curious and make time to pray and meditate on your own. And the more you do it, the stronger your own connection's going to be, but also all the miracles and synchronicities that are going to follow you in the days ahead of you. As always, thank you for being here. Wishing you brightest blessings and all love.